Today's podcast is brought to you by no one still, unfortunately. We'll get there. Too Tall Sports Podcast. What's going on? Thanks for joining me today. My guest on the show is going to be Randall Shelley. He's a former minor leaguer. He played in the Texas Rangers organization, went to UCLA, and he's a mutual friend of my buddy Grant, and he's got some funny stories about his minor league experience. So he's met a lot of different people in his life, and he's had some interesting encounters in his career. So I think you'll really enjoy this episode. As always, you can find the show at Too Tall Sports Podcast on social media. You can find me everywhere. And the show is on all platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music now, Podchaser, wherever you can find it, you can get it. So please subscribe, rate, and review if you have a chance to do that. And let me know what you think. As always, I always appreciate the feedback. So if you learn something or you get something out of an episode, let me know. But enjoy the episode with Randall Shelley, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest played professional baseball for 6 years in the minor leagues. He was drafted by the Texas Rangers twice, once in high school and once in college. And he was also on the 1992 Little League World Series team, and they won the championship that year. So he also played his college ball at UCLA, and he's got lots of stories for us. So, get your popcorn ready. And he is my new acquaintance, Randall Shelley. What's going on, Randall? How you
Thanks,
doing?
Brett. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk some baseball.
Me too, man. Thanks for being on the show. And I have to shout out our mutual friend, Grant. He hooked this up, so I appreciate that. And I know he listens, so thank you, Grant, for bringing us together.
Yep.
And so I want to just start from your early upbringing. I know you got a lot of stories, but I want to start kind of where you're from and kind of how you got into baseball as a young kid.
Yeah, my parents were Dodgers season ticket holders. I think their first date was going to Dodger Stadium. If my dad was telling the story, he would say that the pitcher of the first date that they went together became my first Little League coach, which is sort of true, but not really true. Vern Rule was my first Little League coach at like 5 years old at Stearns Park in Long Beach, and so Vern Rule, his son is Kenny Rule. He was a good baseball player too, and I think they were there till maybe I was 10 years old, and then Vern became pitching coach of the Phillies, like in 85 or something. So I got started playing Little League, and then Little League, as you're a little kid, you start loving baseball, getting into it, and we had a good group in Long Beach, and I was on the 1992 World Series team where we was coached by Jeff Burrows, and Sean Burrows was my buddy. We lived in the same little area, Bay Harbor and Long Beach, and we went to the Little League World Series. I mean, baseball is so different now, but when we were kids, like, we didn't even know there was a World Series. At least I didn't know.
Right.
I mean, I was just playing and having fun with my buddies and goofing around. And the next thing you know, we're playing in San Bernardino. It's getting a little more serious. And then we just kicked butt out there. And next thing you know, we're flying to Williamsport to play in the World Series. It's just like larger than life experience.
What did you think when you got there and you're seeing not only other teams around the country, but other countries there represented and bringing all their studs? Like, was that kind of a wow moment for you, even as like a 12-year-old?
Yeah, it was like, you just don't know what you're getting into, because you're a little kid. You have this idea of what it's going to be like. Like, wow, there's kids on our team that never been on an airplane before, and so we're flying out here as our group of buddies playing baseball, and we're going to go have a chance to win the whole thing. It was just like, what is going on? But there's our Little League team, we actually lost that year to the Philippines, and the Philippines put together a super all-star team from the whole country of the Philippines, and they were 17 and 18-year-olds, and we lost to them 14-4.
Wow.
Against 11 and 12-year-olds against 17 and 18-year-olds.
That's ridiculous when they do that.
Yeah. So um, there was a reporter in the Philippines that had had enough because I guess Little League they've been having a ton of cheating. They never really checked birth certificates for the countries that they came from besides America, and a reporter in the Philippines uh, told the government that he it's ridiculous. He kind of became like the spokesman for we're cheating, and they threatened to kill. He said he was going to tell America, and they threatened to kill him and put him in prison. And so he fled the country. We lost, and like 25 days later, he showed up in America showing birth certificates of the real kids that were 17 and 18-year-olds, and they awarded us the championship. So
Oh, wow.
it was crazy. It was like you're crying on the field after the game, like the worst. We won 19 games in a row in the Little League. We didn't even lose a
Wow.
game. And so then we get beat by 17 and 18-year-olds, and I was on the cover of the Press Telegram crying with my mom holding me, and like, you just have all these memories, and then they're like, "Wow, you're now the world champions. We gave you the title." So it was kind of like, nah, it didn't sit well with us. But our same Little League ended up because Sean Burrows was a 11-year-old. We had Chris and Kevin Miller. They were 11-year-olds. They're twins. And then we had Alex DeFazio, who was 11-year-old on the first year. So those four guys came back on the second year, and then we made it all the way back, and we won the World Series the next year.
Oh,
So
so you guys won it twice.
we became back-to-back World Series champions. And I
Whoa.
guess the probability of that happening is like it'll never happen again is what
Yeah, I don't think
they're
so.
saying now. Um,
It's hard to bring that group back twice and have the same age, the ages line up right, and yeah,
yeah,
that's
baseball's
crazy.
different now. Like there's a 12-year-old team. Every kid's 12 at their 12-year-old, and they
Right.
move on. But um, yeah, it
What an
was awesome. I
experience.
got to
Yeah.
meet the president. The Blue Jays won the World Series that year, so the president invites the Little League World Series team and the pro team to come meet the president. So I got to meet George Bush Sr., shake his hand, get ball signed, and got to meet my favorite player as a kid was John Olerud.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Used to
he
wear the
was
helmet on his head.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was my favorite. So I got to meet him at the White House. It was just unbelievable.
That's
So
a lot at a young age, man.
yeah.
So after, I mean, it can't get any better than that. But you end up going to high school in Orange County, leaving Long Beach. So how did that transition go from you moving from Long Beach, where you grew up, playing baseball, y'all had friends there, and then you end up going to Santa Margarita. So how did that all come together?
Yeah, we moved out to Dove Canyon,
Oh, nice.
and it was great. Tip Lefevre is my favorite human being in terms of baseball my whole life. I owe everything I learned about baseball, how to hold myself as a player, how to act, I mean everything. He gave so much to baseball. He was there's my daughter. Hold on.
Hello. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see her.
So yeah, he lived in Lakewood, and
Uh-huh.
he would drive all the way to Santa Margarita every day. And that's if you're not from
That's a heck
California.
of a drive there.
Yeah, it's not too fun.
Yeah.
So I went out to Santa Margarita. Um, I don't even know how I got linked up with him, but I think it was the summer before freshman year. I'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning, jump in his car, and we'd drive to Santa Margarita to do workouts.
Wow.
And then the next thing you know, I'm playing, and yeah, he's just a great guy, and I love him.
And I had Mike Witt on, who actually coached me in Little League, and he was actually the pitching coach there after his big league career, and you got to meet him as well. And
Yep.
A lot of connections there. So, and it's a great program. So,
Yep.
and you obviously played well there. You played well enough to get drafted out of high school, like I said in the beginning, by the Texas Rangers. You decided to go to college, so at UCLA. What went into the decision to, as far as what kind of player you were in high school, to not signing to go to pro ball, and then making the decision to go to UCLA?
Well, I always wanted to be a Bruin, but they didn't show much interest in me. UW showed the most interest in me. I went out to I visited the school. I did the whole recruiting trip, and it was so cold, and it just seemed like another country to me. And I showed up to my first game there. I had like a T-shirt on and some jeans, and the whole game I was like I was frozen. So
Yeah.
I just kind of didn't see myself going there. The head coach was Ken Knutson, and I guess if you grow up there, you're talking about hunting a lot. You're talking about fishing. I like those things, but I got in his car. He was taking me to dinner, and he's like, "Sorry for the smell in the car. I shot a bear this weekend. I brought it down the hill, and I cut it up and I put it in the back of the car, and I was just like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, this is stuff I don't know about, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have loved to go there probably. I mean, it's a good school. They had a good program. But the way it all kind of panned out was, um, I waited. I waited and waited and waited. I signed after my senior year. So let me see if I could think about this. So the draft happens. Um, I had my I At that point I didn't know where I was going. So the draft. So it's June. I didn't know where I was going. I hadn't signed with any team,
Oh, wow.
and I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting because I wanted to see other opportunities. So I made the California All-Star team, and that team was just stacked. I mean, there's
So you made the
probably
California All-Star team without having a college to go to?
yeah,
Wow. And you got drafted too. So obviously you're on somebody's radar.
yep, yep.
But and so obviously no scholarships were coming in. So what was it like? How long did you really have to say, like, you were dead set on UCLA no matter what?
No, no, I hadn't
Okay.
even decided in my mind that I
Okay.
was going to UCLA.
Okay.
Um, UW didn't feel right. So then USC started talking to me. I did a recruiting trip with them, and then there's like a whole thing with that because Sean Burrows was already committed to go to USC. We're the same year.
Right.
He's my buddy, and I knew he was going to go top round. I knew he was going to be first rounder. I knew he was going to not play at USC.
Yeah.
So USC, I said I need to have a scholarship in writing here because I waited so long and they wanted me. So they said, well, we can't do that because we don't have any scholarships. If Sean doesn't sign, then you can have his scholarship. And I said, put that in writing, and then I'll commit. Well, they didn't want to do that. And Sean being my buddy, I knew he wasn't gonna sign. But what if he waited till the last day before school to negotiate? And so, of course, I couldn't wait till the first
Yeah.
day before school. So
Right.
I made the California All-Star team. I went out there. That's when Gary Adams was at that. He was at that. He saw me hit batting practice. I literally hit every single ball over the fence in batting practice. Like,
Wow.
I mean, I was feeling it. I got a couple hits in the game. I didn't do anything special, but after that game, Gary came up to me. He waited after the game and said, "Hey, son, I'm Gary Adams of UCLA. How would you like to play for the UCLA Bruins?" And I went, "Yes." And that
I'm
was
in.
it. That was
Yeah.
it. So I just had to wait a long time. No one would do this now.
Right.
Like, would anyone wait that long now? It's the total opposite.
And usually there's not money left if you really want a scholarship at that point anyway. They're already locked up and they got their guys at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So I experienced. I mean, other teams recruited me. It wasn't like those are the only ones. Like Fullerton was talking to me. Tulane.
Okay.
There's a list there, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So then I ended up at UCLA. I became a starting freshman third baseman, moving Garrett Atkins over to first. He's still mad at me about that.
I'm sure. Future big leaguer, by the way.
Yeah, he's a very good hitter, very good player.
Yeah.
So I became the starting third baseman. Jack Santora was at short, and Chase Utley was at second, and Garrett Atkins at first. We had that was a great year. I was the only freshman playing on the team. It was a little nerve wracking. They made me take a pitch every at bat, which was pretty irritating. I had to take a strike, not just a pitch, but I had to take a strike as a freshman batting eighth or ninth on the team.
It's a very college thing to do where the coaches have that kind of control.
Never really liked that.
Yeah.
Didn't help me much, but yeah. So I played there 3 years, and then I went on to and then the Rangers drafted me out of high school. Oh,
Right.
so you want to hear the story of why I turned down all the money out of high school, probably, right?
Well, I wasn't sure how much money they offered you, based on the round you got drafted. But was there any shot of you playing pro ball out of high school?
Yeah. So, okay. So in my mind, my parents and you know, I think it's hard for the average person to, think about what goes through our heads in this decision. You want to be a major league baseball player. So the advice is like become a major league baseball player as soon as possible and get to the big leagues. Well, cool. Then there's the other route of going to college, getting your degree, getting better at baseball, and then having the opportunity after. Well, my parents they said you can do whatever you want. And so that was cool and kind of annoying at the same time because you're a young kid and you don't really
Yeah,
know
you don't
what
know
the
what the
best
right.
decision
You're
is.
18 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my parents would do this. They would say, my dad one week would be like, I think you should go pro. And then that same week, my mom would be like, I think you should go to college. And then the next week they would kind of flip flop it. And they just kind of they tricked me into making it my own decision without kind of telling me it was my own decision. Um, so what happened was I just signed with UCLA. Before the draft, I said, it's going to take a lot of money. I really want to go to college. UCLA is what I want to do. Um, I told them 400,000, like I made it up in my head. And they laughed at me. And I said, cool, like no problem. Thanks for drafting me in the 22nd round. I'm going to go to college. So 1 week before school starts, I just went to orientation. I get the call from whoever the guy is. I don't remember his name. The whole team wants to fly into your house and talk to you. We have an offer that you can't refuse. And I said, I don't want to waste your time. It's probably going to take 400,000 to get me to give up all this and go play on the road. So they said, well, just hear us out. They all flew to my house. I sat down with them in my living room. There was like four guys and my scout at the time. And they said, well, all these people above you didn't sign. So all this money is available. We weren't able to sign all these guys above you. So here's what we got. And they go, 325,000. And I'm like,
That's tough to say no to when you're
yeah,
that age.
yeah. So then there's all this stuff in the back of your head is like, well, if I go to college, if I'm worth 325,000 now, if I play well at UCLA, what am I going to be worth then?
Right.
So I imagined myself being much more. Well, I went to UCLA. I had off and on years, kind of first part of the half good, and then they actually kind of benched me at some point in my second year, and then I finished. I didn't start my second. I started as a freshman, then I didn't start as a sophomore, and then halfway through the season, I became the starter, and then and then we lose to Louisiana in the super regional, and I had a great year, but I wasn't putting up I wasn't hitting 375 like everybody else, and I think I was hitting like 300, 295, and so the draft comes and they pulled my number again, and here we go, we're doing it again.
Right. I wanted to ask you before we get to your next draft. You got the chance to play with obviously Garrett Atkins, but also Chase Utley, like you mentioned. How he had a great career in the big leagues with the Phillies for a long time, and once he came to the Dodgers, I really got to watch him more. But what kind of player was he in college? And you got to be right alongside with him. What kind of guy and what kind of player was he in college?
Chase is just like an even keel, solid human being. He doesn't get super excited. He doesn't get bummed. He knows he's good. He believes in himself, and he never doubts that he can do what he wants to do. I mean, that's what makes Chase Chase. Um, his swing is perfect. Uh, he works on it. He's good at he's a hard worker. But I would say that his mindset is what makes him the best. He believes he's going to be the best. He believes in himself more than anybody else, and I think that's what makes him so good. I grew up with him. I could say as we played in the same little league. He's 1 year older than me, so we
Okay.
didn't play in the Little League World Series together. But he was the little guy on the team. He would bunt. He, you know, looking back, he wasn't. If you were to say like on this field, who's going to be the best second baseman of maybe all time, I wouldn't have said Chase Utley.
Wow.
There was other players, but um, when he got to high school, he just blossomed, and he was just something else. And then he played at UCLA, and then he crushed the ball with a wood bat in the out in New York, the summer league. What's it called?
Oh, Cape Cod, that one?
Yeah, so the Cape Cod,
Yeah.
like you put a wood bat in his hand, and it didn't matter. He just believed in himself so much,
Right.
and um, but yeah, he's just a solid, even keel guy. He doesn't like talking about himself. He just is a hard worker, plays hard, plays the game right, and that's how we were taught as kids is just to play hard and play it the right way, and don't get high on the highs and don't get low on the lows. Just play
Right.
even keel.
Right. And so I guess back to your career. So you get drafted again by Texas your junior year. Now you do sign. What was that whole process like for you? I mean, was it weird that Texas had drafted you again? Obviously, they really liked you if they got you 3 years
Yeah.
later. What was the whole draft process like for you?
That one's a little different because you're not at home. You're busy, and next thing you know, you're playing baseball. Next thing you know, you're being drafted. So, um, I was excited. I wanted to move on. I was hoping to go a little higher, but I didn't. I knew that I was going to have to take whatever money they gave me because
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was in the rounds. And the coach, Gary Adams, blessed me to leave, and was very, very kind in the whole situation. But so I turned down 325, and then I ended up signing for 25 my my junior
Yeah,
year.
that's the gamble. But you know what? I think you had the right to. Honestly, I tell people this too. Like, if you're not getting over 500 out of high school, I would still go to college. If you're that good, they'll find you, and
Yeah,
you'll improve. And 3 years of maturity later, you'll be even better. So I would have probably done the same thing as you.
yeah, it was tough, but
Yeah. No,
it
yeah,
worked
it's
out.
just the way it went. Exactly. You still got
Yeah.
drafted. And after you got drafted, you got to go to good old Pulaski, Virginia. So
hmm
your first taste of pro ball, it's wood bats now. It's the podunk town, So what can you tell us about your first year in pro ball?
I liked it. You saw a lot of fastballs, and coming from college, it's kind of the reverse. No one's throwing over the zone. They're throwing away from all the
Right. Everything's
hitters.
away.
Everything's away. So it was like, wow, here's some pitches to hit. Um, I had a great my first year was my best year. I think I led the league in doubles and extra base hits, and I made the All-Star team. But it's a short season,
Right.
and then I earned my baseball card from that year. So I got a Topps baseball card, which is
There you
always
go.
always a pretty cool thing as a player to get something like that. So,
Sure.
but yeah, I played out in Pulaski. It's an interesting little town. I met some really great people there. I also saw some really strange people there, which is always kind of the case, as you know, when you're in minor leagues.
Yes.
They're smaller towns, but Pulaski, they make OxyContin, so half the town is like church folk, and the other half is kind of like drunk folk. And it was strange. Like
Yeah.
you see it when you're around town. It's kind of sad to sum them up in that way, but um, my roommate was C.J. Wilson.
Former
Um,
big leaguer with the
yeah,
Rangers. Yeah.
yeah, we played together as a kid, so it was really fun. I had a great time. We were roommates in this terrible little apartment. Um, it was a strange thing. No furniture. I don't know if you guys talk about this, but as minor leaguers, we don't have furniture in our apartments. We have to pay for everything. Um, we can't even afford certain things that you normally have in
Yeah.
life. We're sleeping on blow up mattresses and putting a TV if someone brought one on a cardboard box, and we're not living like this lavish lifestyle that people may think about. But
No, it's
you,
definitely
you've probably
terrible.
you've
Oh
probably
yeah,
experienced
some
that.
guys would rent TVs from like Walmart, and they give you a certain amount of time, and then you bring it back, and then you rent
Yeah.
another one. And same thing with the like air mattress. Plus, there's no job security, so you don't really know where you're going to be. You could
Mm-hmm.
get moved up, moved down, traded, released. It's all who
Yep.
knows.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely know how that goes. So you got to experience Pro Bowl at least in Virginia a little bit, and then you got to go to Savannah, Georgia, the following year.
Mm-hmm.
So I know. Okay, this is the story we've all been waiting for, of course. So Randall can set it up, but he got to be on an episode of the Ollie G show, but it was kind of random how it all came together with the famous Borat. So I'll let you have the floor on this one. What exactly happened with that guy?
Well, we had a bad team that year. I think we had the worst. I think we were 45-95 at the end of the season. Um, I was one of 3 people on the original roster to still be on that roster at the end of the year. It was just bad, and so like we kind of had this mantra like it was Groundhog's Day, and the same thing's going to happen every single day. We're going to lose. It was just bad everything. So uh, Paul Carey was our manager, PC. He's a well-known guy, and the day we got our butts kicked by Augusta, and the game's over. He goes, "You guys suck. Go into the clubhouse. There's some guy in the clubhouse. He's from Kazakhstan. He bought you all dinner. Be respectful. Answer his questions. I'll see you guys tomorrow." So we go in there, and this guy is there from Kazakhstan with this thick accent. He's going around trying to kiss people on the cheeks, and it's just like, what the heck is going on here? So he goes and tries to kiss Antoine Rollins, Jimmy Rollins' brother.
Oh, okay.
He goes to give him a kiss, and Antoine's like, "Man, get off me. We don't do that here in America." And it was just like really awkward. And I'm sitting back going, what is this? This is strange. And then he goes and finds this. It was like he's so good at it. He goes and finds the next most awkward guy, who's Dustin Smith, who's like graduated from a class of 35 in Kansas, and he talks like king of the hill, and he loves cake. Hey, Randall, I love cake. He would always say that to me. So he goes and tries to kiss him, and it's super awkward. And like, meanwhile, all this is going, we're all getting undressed. We're all eating food. We're all, trying to wind down after the game. And I went up to the cameraman and I said, "What's going on here? This seems weird. Like, who is this guy?" And the guy in a Savannah accent goes, "Hey, man, I'm from Savannah. I've been following this guy all around town. He's been doing weird stuff everywhere we go." So I'm like, huh. So it's just like all this awkward tension, and being me, I just walk over to him and introduce myself. I kiss this guy on the cheek. "Hey, I'm Randall. How are you? What do you? I heard your national anthem at the game today. It was pretty cool. So what are you doing here?" I'm asking all these questions. "What's this pin on your shirt?" Um, and he just starts talking to me about all this stuff. Like, it's from I have a men's club where we like to hunt the bear and or hunt the dog, and we like to wrestle. He's like, "Do you like to wrestle?" And I'm like, "Do you want me to take you out?" And he's like, "What is take you out?" And then he just grabs me, and he's like pretend wrestling me, and I'm looking around going, what the heck is going on? So like I ended up like kind of like holding him a little bit, and I was like, what? I'm like looking at my buddies like, what is going on? So I kind of like pin him, and I pin him to the ground, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like, yeah, I got you. And then I'm like, here, get up, buddy. Like, what is going on right now? You know? So Borat looks at me and he goes, I'm okay. And then the next thing you know, he's like attacking me again, and I'm pinning him to the ground, and it's like, what the heck? And then he does it again. He wrestles me again, and it was just a crazy day. So, and in the backstory, is that no one in America knows this guy. Like, none of us knew what was going on. Sacha Baron Cohen didn't exist in America. The Ollie G was in the UK.
Yeah.
And so the day just ended, like calling my parents going, today, I think I got a hit or two, normal baseball talk. Uh, and then I ended up wrestling this guy in the clubhouse. Very strange. His name is Borat from Kazakhstan. I don't know, but I didn't sign anything. I didn't know I was going to be on a TV show. I didn't know anything. So I didn't. He never comes out of character. He's a master. His suit smells like he never washes it on purpose. He's just a master out of this whole thing. So
Who would have thought that would become just a huge hit in the States too? You know?
yeah, yeah. And so the next year, I'm sitting in a hotel room playing for my next team, and my teammates are saying, "Turn it to HBO. You're on TV." And I'm like, "What the heck?" I had no idea I was about to be on TV or on HBO
Yeah. How
for
about that?
free.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
free.
You should have got paid for that episode.
Yeah. So
That's crazy.
that's my Borat story.
Yeah, wild, man. Who would have thought? And I don't think people realize there's a lot of weird like encounters with celebrities at minor league games too. Like I got to meet Mr. Belding once, like at
No
a
way.
game in West Virginia actually, and like Jerry the King Lawler would make his rounds around the minor leagues and stuff like that from
Yeah.
WWE. Like just it's crazy who you run into at these minor league games. So
Yeah.
that is a pretty funny story. I mean, Borat's it's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
So the next year you're talking about, so you got to go to Clinton, Iowa, where I actually got to play as well.
Yeah.
You know,
How about that dog food smell?
the worst smelling city in America, ladies and gentlemen. I know I
It
always
really
give
is.
a lot of shit to Clinton, Iowa, but it is the worst.
It
What was
is
your experience
unbelievable.
there?
Yeah. Good old town, playing baseball in the Midwest, seeing all the neat towns around there, Cedar Rapids, just uh but yeah, that I would when you just try to describe that dog's food smell, like how do you even describe it? Like would you even know that that is dog food?
Yeah, I don't know
That
what
smell?
it's like fumes. It like coats the city when you're there,
Yeah.
and it's unlike anything I've ever smelled before.
And it doesn't go away. Like most
No,
smells you smell a little bit and you're like, "Hey, where'd that smell go?" This one lingers and lingers and lingers and lingers
oh,
through batting practice, through the game. You smell it all the time.
it was brutal.
Hmm.
But yeah, not. I mean, obviously, not a lot to do there. But yeah,
We
the
all have,
Riverboat
yeah,
Casino.
we have all that in common though. We got that dog food smell.
Yeah,
The riverboat, the casino. There's not much
yeah,
else there, but
yeah.
those are the fun moments that we have as minor leaguers. Just being out on the road, seeing a new town, seeing a new people, getting to know the people there, being part
Right.
of the community. Trying to. You don't have much time for anything, but uh, I look back and remember all those moments being helping me become who I am, and uh, yeah, just good times.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And then the following year, you got to play in Stockton, California, which is high A at that level.
Hmm.
Where did you think your career was at that point? You're now gone up a couple levels. You know, I don't know if you're a priority guy as much anymore. Where did you feel like your career was?
Well, kind of in the back of my head is investment and how much they've invested in me. I mean, I really thought about that. Mark Teixeira was the other third baseman they drafted that year. He signed for like 2.2 million, and me at 25 grand. So every year I didn't take for granted. Like I was fighting my way to make a team, stick on the team, be the third baseman that whole year, and try to move up. So after that Clinton year, I was feeling the best I've ever felt. Like I had a great off season. I didn't have injuries, so I went into spring training, and in my second day of spring training, we started doing live BP with pitchers throwing to hitters. Well, my own teammate ended up hitting me in the head. I had a helmet on. I got hit on this left side, and I didn't lose conscious, but I mean it was a 96 right in my head, and and I ended up getting a subdural hematoma on the right side of my brain, so like a bruise, a small brain bleed. So that was scary. I mean, at the time, I was just like, dude, I'm fine. Like I didn't get knocked out. Like I didn't even have a headache. And the trainer runs over and goes, "You're done. We need to take you to get evaluated." So I went to a hospital out in Surprise, and I sat in the waiting room for 3 hours before I saw a doctor. Well, I had a brain bleed, so that seemed strange, but I didn't know I had a brain bleed. So then I did a CAT scan there, and they saw like a quarter size of blood on my brain here. So it was crazy. I was freaked out. I'm laying in bed. My parents, my family, my wife isn't there. I just gotten married that year, and it was gnarly. It was overwhelming. So I'm in this one hospital. They put me into. They say we got to. They're all in freak panic mode, and I'm like, I'm fine, but I wasn't. So they say we got to transfer you to this ICU, this like a brain ICU down the road. So they put me in a wheelchair, and then we get to the vehicle, and I just stand up out of the wheelchair and I go sit in the back of this ambulance. Like I'm feeling good, like, but my brain has a bleed in it. So I go to an ICU. It's like the scariest place ever. People have like all their hair shaved off their heads, like scars across their head, stitches all the way across. Like it's a gnarly place. So now I'm sitting in there just freaking out, thinking, what is going on? And my parents flew down or drove down, I don't remember. And my dad's a chiropractor, and he just kind of came and saw me, and they all kind of hung out with me. My brain stopped bleeding on its own. They didn't have to do any surgery. And then I go back to spring training, and they say, you had a brain bleed, you know. Well, previous to that, the doctor says the part of your brain is that it was damaged. You're gonna be angry. You're gonna have no patience. You're gonna you're gonna have you're not gonna be able to deal with conflict. So I'm like, great, like this is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
And so I go back to spring training. They're like, you can't throw a ball. You can hit in the cage with a tee that you feed yourself. Nobody can throw a ball at you. And so I sat in a cage every single day, hitting off a tee, like until for the whole day. How long is spring training? Like 5 hours.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just sat in there. I lifted weights. They let me do that, and I had to sit out for 30 days. And I think spring training's like 32. Spring training like a month.
Yeah. It's like a little over a month. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I got to play in 2 games. I had so much energy. I had so much rage. I had so much anger. I was ready to crush the ball. I go out first bat. I was telling everybody, like, as soon as I get in there, I'm hitting a home run. Like, that's what I'm going to do. First game, I hit a home run and a triple. Second game, I was 2 for 4 with like a double and a single. And so then the scouting director pulls me in after spring training and says, and this guy I didn't get along with. He told me I didn't play with fire. He threatened to he printed out a plane ticket when I was in Clinton. Um, I hit a walk off hit in the game. He showed me this printed ticket for like United Airlines with my name on it, and he goes, "Well, Randall, I was gonna fire you today, but because your parents are in town and you played so well today, I'm gonna fire somebody else on the team." And he ripped up the plane ticket. I'm like, going, what the heck is going on right now? So so same guy. He never liked me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Clearly sounds like a class act.
he was a zoo.
Yeah.
I won't mention his name,
Right. Right.
but he ended up getting fired that year. That was my last year and his last year. And so he goes, Randall, you don't want to play baseball anymore. And in my head, I wanted to reach over there and grab him by the neck. I was so angry from my head injury. I just played 2 games. I just went 4 for 8 in my first 2 games back. And he says, Randall, you don't want to play anymore, do you? And I'm like, dude, come on. And he goes, I gave your job away. And I'm like, okay, where am I going now? And he goes, well, you don't want to play, do you? And I said, yeah, I want to play. All right, well, you can go to the Gulf Coast League. Fine. Or no, extended spring training. You can go to extended spring training. So I'm back in extended spring training. I was happy to play there. I was stoked to be playing after having my brain bleed 30 days ago. And I went 26 for 50 there. And then they called me back up. They put me back on the team. So I got back to Stockton, and I couldn't get a hit. I was crushing the ball. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, if some of the team, it's Pacific University.
Okay.
That's where we played. It was before they made the new
Yeah.
Stockton. So we played at Pacific University. In left center, the sun sets like in left center. So when you're as a righty, you're looking into the sun when a pitcher is pitching. Like you literally are looking into the sun.
Uh-huh.
And nobody likes to hit there until if as soon as the sun goes down, then it's back to normal. But the first at bat of every game, you're looking into the sun. Um, but I was just crushing the ball, line drive out, hard, drilled into the wind and left, and it would get caught at the wall. Just everything didn't really align for me. They're playing me every other day. They're kind of cycling me, which I wasn't used to because I had up until then I played every day, and then the draft comes around and they pulled my ticket, and that was my last day as a Ranger.
So, that was an unfortunate situation. Obviously, you wanted to keep playing, but, as you know, every year there's a new draft class, and every year they got new people they're investing in. So, but you decided to go and play independent ball in Jackson, Mississippi. What, a lot of guys always say, like, oh, I'll never play indie ball, but they end up playing independent ball. So what was that like for you playing your first year in independent ball?
So I went to Jackson, and my first game, I hit a walk-off. And
Nice.
the owner of the team comes down after the game and like slipped $100 in the handshake.
There you
Welcome
go.
to the team, son. Thanks for your hard work. It was just like, what is going on? Like, where are we? So you're slammed in with a bunch of guys from all over. Everyone that's in independent ball wants it probably more than as a minor league. Would you say? You played independent ball as well.
Yeah, you know what? I think a lot of guys and I had the same mindset. Like I was going there. The only reason I went there after I got released was to get back to affiliated baseball. I wanted to go back to pro ball. And then when that doesn't happen, you start to just enjoy it more and you hang out with the guys more and it's not so serious and everyone still wants to win, but it's just you start to enjoy the game, which is I think what you're about to tell me as well.
Yeah, it becomes about winning because the team wants to win. In the minor leagues, it's more about player development. So you don't really feel that. You don't bunt in the eighth inning. You don't hit people over. All those small things that win are kind of non-existent in affiliate ball. So it was fun. We're going back to why we do it, and I had a great time in Jackson. I drove out there with my wife, and we stayed in like a Ramada Inn that was super shady.
Yeah.
I mean, drug deals were going down. Drugs were being offered to us after every game, just trying to get to our hotel. So I was a little scared for her at the time, but we were having fun. It was the first time that we'd been out there together, and so that year ended, and then it took me into. I lived in Long Beach, and my wife lived in Long Beach, so the GBL had started the next year, the Golden Baseball League, and so I went out to a tryout and made that team and played 2 seasons for the Long Beach Armada.
Yeah,
at Blair Field.
Right. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, Long Beach had an independent ball team. They don't exist anymore, I don't think, but
No.
They had the team for a while and they got to play where Long Beach State plays at Blair Field. So what was it like for you coming back home, playing in front of your family and being kind of, where you grew up, but also still playing, professional baseball just, right in your backyard?
It was awesome. I could ride my bike from my apartment to the stadium. It was great. The camaraderie that we had in those 2 years was something that I never experienced in minor league ball. We had good teams. The manager was Darrell Evans, and I loved Darrell. He was just a great inspiration for me. He allowed me to steal. I'm 6'4". I was like 225. He's the only manager that allowed me to steal in my whole career. Like, yeah, Randall, you could steal. And I was like, really? I could steal? He's like, yeah, go for it. So my fun little story about that year was Jose Canseco was my teammate. And Ricky Henderson was on the Surf Dogs. And so I started doing delayed steals pretty frequently. So I had like 8 successful delayed steals. And it became kind of a joke, like, how many steals is Randall going to get? And it was fun. Like, I really looked forward to playing because I was going to try to steal. it was like nothing I'd ever tried, I'd ever thought about. And uh, I ended up stealing more bags than Ricky Henderson. I let Ricky know that when he came to third base. I said, "Hey, Ricky, I got more bags than you." And he goes, "Man, Ricky don't want to steal. Ricky want to hit home runs." That's what he
He
told
wanted
me.
to steal when he played in pro ball, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
pretty cool.
I ended up getting 28 bags for a 6'4" third baseman.
That's pretty
It
impressive.
was so fun. It was just awesome.
Yeah. What was it like? I didn't know Jose Canseco was your teammate. What was it like having that
Yeah,
guy on your team?
he's a trip. He's a real trip. I I had a lot of fun with him. We early on, I got close to him. You know, being I was the 3 hitter, he was the 4 hitter. I got close to him. You know, I I made it fun. So I consciously said, "What dumb question am I going to ask Jose today?" I literally went into that every day that way. So I mean, I would say, "Hey, Jose, man, you're a weapons master, right?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, I've trained in every weapon." I go, "All right, Jose, what's the best weapon?" And he say, "You really want to know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, tell me what's the best weapon?" He goes, "Baseball cleats."
So random.
And I'm like, "What about like samurai swords? What
Yeah.
about like nunchucks? What about guns? Like, how is cleats?" He goes, "You can do some serious damage with cleats." I'm like, "All right."
That's random, man.
Yeah. So I asked him like, what was it like partying with Axl Rose and Madonna, and he'd give his answers to that. He doesn't drink and he doesn't do drugs, is what he says. But he did tell me how to get steroids. When I asked him how do you get steroids, he said you just say you have low libido and low sex drive. You go online, you find a doctor that will prescribe you testosterone and HGH, and next thing you know, you're taking testosterone HGH. I never took any of that, but
Right.
I I always ask dumb questions from Jose, and that's one of them that I got an answer
There
from.
you go. That's great.
Hmm.
Well, I wanted to, also ask you, a lot of guys, I'm always curious how people transition out of sports. So, once you had your 2 years in Long
Oh,
Beach, playing independent ball, it's tough. And especially for
it's
the guys
tough.
that are baseball lifers, you don't really know what to do. You kind of put your whole
Nope.
life toward baseball. So how did you handle your transition after baseball was done?
Well, um, uh, yeah. So it kind of goes with your degree, right? You go to you go to college, you get a degree. Well, I was a history major, so then it's like, well, what do I do with that? Am I going
Yeah.
to teach? Am I going to coach? I'm not really attracted to coaching. Um, I just, I was more attracted to coaching my kids, not somebody else. I just never saw myself doing that.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of fear about what you're going to do. Um, I went into, I, I fortunately, my dad's a chiropractor. We started an online business called Live It Lifestyle, and we basically write like nutritional lessons that talk about whole food supplements, and then we brand them for doctors to share with their patients. So that business really allowed me to stay at home. I mean, I was running that business when I was at the Long Beach Armada.
Okay.
We were already starting it then, and it allowed me to work from home. It allowed me to uh, make some money, and not a lot of money, but um, and so I started to just kind of like produce for myself and see how far that would go. But that's kind of scary in itself because I have no experience in that. I have my dad to lean on, but he didn't have so much energy to work on it as well. So I started learning websites, and Casey Grzeka, Grant's brother,
Right.
um, loves building websites, and so we started building websites together. And me and Casey, he was my best man at my wedding. We played at UCLA and at Santa Margarita together. Um, we started just learning how to make websites, and the next thing you know, I'm lining up clients for websites through the business that I already had. So I did about 10 years of Live It Lifestyle and making websites on the side. And fortunately, my wife was an established teacher. she's been teaching for 18 years, so she was the breadwinner for many years, and it allowed us to kind of grow together, and so yeah, I didn't really know, and that fear is very strong, and I ended up going to a fire academy to be a firefighter because a couple of my other Long Beach teammates from the Armada had just went and applied and they got right in. So I was like, wow, maybe I'll be a firefighter. So I went through firefighter academy at Santa Ana, and uh, and then I became an EMT, all while doing all this other stuff
Wow.
to make it ends meet. And then I had a heart problem. So it kind of was like, well, I'm not going to be a firefighter now. So I had what Ken Lee Jansen has.
Oh, wow.
I have the same thing, and so my heart rate would get like super high, and so I had to be cardioverted 3 times, which isn't fun. So whether they put the pads on front of you and back of you and stop your heart, I had that 3 times, and then they ended up doing it's called an ablation, where they go through the carotid, or they go through the artery in your crotch, send this little robot arm, and then like singe some fibers on my heart. So I went through all that, and then I just kind of realized, man, I'm not going to be a firefighter. So I kept doing web development, and then I ran into an old buddy of mine from childhood who was on my Pony 13U team, Rusty Diebel. And he owns a company called Digital Installers that does custom AV. And I ran into him at a FNL Friday Night Lights football game.
There you go.
And he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm growing. I need help." I said, "Well, I'm looking for a job," and I just started up right with them. And I've been with them for 3 years. It's this logo right here.
Oh yeah.
And it's awesome. I'm on a team now, like being a baseball player. Everyone gets along, and we're grinding, working hard, building a business together, and it's just been so rewarding and a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. I mean, yeah. Just the places you've been, the people you met, like you've had a pretty wild ride is what it sounds like up until this point.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what we do as baseball players. We work hard and we try new things and we see new places, and you just got to keep doing what you got to do, and you learn all this baseball stuff makes you be able to adapt to the real life, I guess.
100%, man. Well, listen, yeah. I'm out of questions, man. You gave me so many great stories, so I appreciate it, and thanks again for coming on the show. We'll have to catch up soon.
All right. Thanks, Brett.
Appreciate it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. A lot of information there, a lot of great stories. You know, not everybody gives you the true insight to their career. And then I appreciate Randall for being an open book today and giving us, the true details of his career. And it's a very interesting life and a different upbringing, going from Little League World Series champion to you name it, going in the minor leagues, ended up playing with Jose Canseco and against Ricky Henderson in independent ball. Doesn't get any better than that. But thanks again at Too Tall Sports Podcast. You can find me everywhere. Please subscribe, rate, and review. And let me know what you think about the episode. Always love to hear your feedback. And we'll see you for another great episode next week. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk